There is something strange about the way we understand our lives. While we are living them, it makes very little sense. We make decisions without knowing where they will lead. We love people without knowing how long they will remain in our lives. We walk through doors not knowing what will be waiting on the other side. And sometimes we enter a season of life that feels so overwhelming that we cannot imagine ever standing outside from it. We simply keep going. And only much later, when we look back and begin to understand, maybe that's what Kierkegaard means when he wrote, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." We are always moving into a future we cannot yet see. And meaning, it comes much later, sometimes too late. With that comes the image of a storm. We all know what it is like when we are caught in one. When you are standing in a storm, you don't think about the weather, what it will mean in 5 years. You simply trying to go through the day, try to find a shelter, try to make the next decision, and trying to hold yourself together. And the word of Haruki Murakami, it's just beautiful. Once the storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you managed to survive. You won't even be sure. There is something profound in that. We spend too much of our lives waiting to return to who we were. We want things to become normal again. We want our old certainty back, our old identity. What if life is not actually trying to return us to the person we were? What if some experiences change us so deeply that going back is no longer possible? Welcome to Mundi. I am Genevieve. Here is a place for philosophy, literature, and the strange experience of being alive. And today I want to talk about after the storm, not how to survive it, not how to overcome it, because that's something we don't notice until years later what it means. Who did you become while you were surviving? I think that is part of the difficult experience we hardly talk about. We may talk about the event, about the loss. That could be a divorce or a move or illness. the uncertainty. But we don't always talk about the person who slowly emerged from it. Sometimes that person is almost unrecognizable. I know it. I go through the storm myself. There were a period I traveled across America by myself. I drove from the west to the east and back again. Thousands of miles, long roads, changing landscapes, weather. And underneath all that movement, a great deal of uncertainty. Questions I couldn't answer. Decisions whose consequences I can't see. There were hopes. There were disappointments. There were so much tears. Moments when the future felt completely open. So open, you don't know where to go. Moment. I could hardly see the next step, the next stop. And I didn't understand anything while I was driving, moving, simply trying to go to the next destination. It was simply living it. One day followed the next. And eventually, it ended without me knowing how and why. Years later, now almost 2 years later, I can look back at that woman. I remember her. I remember the roads, the places. I remember how she was feeling during those moments. But there is something I can no longer fully recover. I cannot completely become her again. That is the stranger's gift of time. The woman who lived through those days is still me. At the same time, she's also someone I have separated or integrated. I didn't reject her because life continued. As she changed after the storm, all it remains is a story. The details become softer. The intensity of emotion fades. So one day, you look back and realize, I survived something I once thought would destroy me. But I don't think survival is the most interesting part. There was a question. What did it make possible? What did that season teach you that comfort never could? What did loneliness reveal Is there any loss removed? What uncertainty forced you to discover about yourself? And when? And when did you finally begin to see? Sometimes the most important transformation, it happens so quietly that we don't recognize it while it is taking place. We think we were merely surviving. But under the survival, something is rearranging itself. Our priorities, our relationships, our sense of self. And the understanding of life. Nature understands this much better than we humans do. A tree does not emerge from winter exactly as it entered it. The earth itself is shaped by drought, rain, fire, wind, and time. And we are not exempt from this. We are also creatures of seasons. That's why we should be careful about romanticizing the storm. I don't believe suffering is automatically meaningful. Not every painful thing happens for a reason. We will eventually understand. Sometimes they are simply painful. Sometimes we lost something, someone we desperately wanted to keep. And there's no explanation of it. While we cannot choose the storm, we can eventually choose what we do with the person that emerges from it. That's where the meaning might begin. Not in what happened, but what comes afterward. We don't get to stand outside our lives with complete knowledge. And we don't get to read the final chapter before making today's decision. We have to walk into the unknown. That is one of the great difficulties of being alive, I think. We are always being asked to trust a story we have not yet finished reading. And only later do we return around and see the shape of it. Only later that we understand why one road leads to another, why one ending creates another beginning. The woman we thought we were becoming was being dismantled so that another woman could emerge. And if you are currently somewhere inside a storm, maybe there's nothing you need to understand today. You simply need to keep living it, walking it, making the next honest decision, putting one foot in front of the other. You may not see where you're at, where this chapter ends, but that's okay. Some things we can only be understood backwards, while we must live forward. One day, you may look back and realize the storm was not the end of your story. It was just a passage, maybe a difficult one, unwanted one, even unfair. But a passage nonetheless. You may look at the woman who walked through it and feel something you did not expect, because she kept going, even though she didn't know where the road was leading. She kept going. That is enough. Sometimes the person who saves our future is simply the person we were when we refused to give up. The storm passes, the landscape changes, and eventually so do we. Perhaps that is the mystery of a life. We spend so much time trying to understand who we are, and life changes again. Only until years later, we look backwards and realize, I didn't become who I thought I would become. I became someone I could not have imagined when the journey began. Maybe that is not a failure of the plan. It is a storm you are walking through. No plan. And this is Mundi, our world, our inner world. The question to carry with you today is not when will this storm be over, but who am I becoming while I am inside it? Until next time, from my heart to yours, Genevieve.